to Business Next and our conversation with HR expert Tony Talbot. Tony, one of the biggest changes I've seen in the workplace over the last 4 or 5 years is the explosion of social media. And one interesting aspect I think you bring to this discussion is your experience in how social media is impacting the hiring process. So tell us more about that.
Well, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. A lot of times you have now access to a lot of information that you would not have had, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, by just Googling the applicant's name. And so, in HR circles, we sit around and say, well, I Googled them first, and now I learned a little bit more about them. Well, now what's happening is you're getting a situation where people are saying, you did not hire me because of my skill set. You did not hire me because you Googled me and you found out that I was, Asian, or I had, I was living with somebody, or whatever the circumstance that would be putting them in a protected classification. So now you're in a situation where you are Googling these employees, finding these candidates, trying to find out more about them. You're not complying with Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is what you have to do. You're finding out information that's protected classification, which puts you in a jeopardy of being accused of discrimination. And you're accessing information that's not job related. All right, so you're kind of in a situation where I don't want to say the word darned if you do and darned if you don't. And you want to get this information to find out if they're doing anything that's an impropriety or make you look bad, but in the same respect, you're also exposing yourself. Under Fair Credit Reporting Act, when you use a third party to get any background information on the candidate, you have to have you have to go through a certain procedure. One of those procedures is getting a disclosure and authorization form, which allows you to use a third party to do the investigation. I highly doubt most people who are going through the interviewing process, and when they Google, when Joe Schmo restaurant owner decides I'm going to Google Mary Smith and see what comes up, that he realizes he potentially could be out of compliance with Fair Credit Reporting or find himself in a situation where he's having to defend a discrimination case.
So in terms of the Fair Credit Reporting, an example might be if you checked someone's Facebook page and they had written, gosh, I'm just about now recovered from my bankruptcy.
More than anything, Fair Credit Reporting is not just limited to financial. Fair Credit Reporting states that if you use a third party to get information that you're going to make a decision on a person's employment on, let's say criminal check, let's say even a reference check using a third party like myself, that all requires the compliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So we would have to get a disclosure and authorization form in advance to doing those types of things, and that's a separate release from what you find in an application form.
Earlier in the segment, you mentioned the hazards of finding things out in certain protected classifications. What are those?
Well, protected classifications are broad and extensive. First, we've got federal protected classifications, and those fall under the Civil Rights Act, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of '64. Then in Michigan, we have what's called the Elliott-Larsen Act, and the Elliott-Larsen expands that. So you've got whatever you have under federal, and then you add weight, height, and familial status or marital status. And then you have just a whole potpourri of protected classifications. Pregnancy from the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. You have bankruptcy. If you have claimed yourself as a bankrupt person, that protects you. You can't be discriminated because of a bankruptcy. Garnishments. You can't fire somebody. You can't discriminate against a person because of the number of garnishments they have. All these areas that you can find yourself not knowingly claimed that you're being discriminated against. So you want to be careful about what you do and what you say and how you say it when you hire and when you fire people.
So even if you accidentally find out this information in a Facebook search, it could come back to haunt you.
It could come back to haunt you, but what I would say to people is that if you're going to find something out, like let's say you're going to do a background check, you've got a person who's going to be in child care, you have every right to do it. You have to be doing your due diligence to do a criminal check and make sure they're not the person that of ill repute, so that you're going to bring them into to be teaching daycare. So if you have a job-related reason to do this check, then you have every right to do it. You just have to be able to defend that, and you need to comply with the Fair Credit Reporting Act.
So do you recommend that small business owners don't even look at Facebook and social media sites because of something they might find?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that, do I recommend it? Yeah, I guess I do. I think that now, based upon what I'm hearing from a lot of attorneys, that was something I did myself. The more I hear about it, the more treacherous that ground is. It is kind of a dangerous task. Now, what you may want to do is you may want to automatically, from the hiring process, the interview process, get the Fair Credit Reporting compliance. Get them to sign off on disclosure and authorization, and then you can run the Facebook and see if that would fly. What's happened is we have technology that's gone way faster than the courts can keep up. And every time I turn around, there's something else going on. And I am not an attorney, so I learned this from all the wonderful attorneys that are around the Lansing area that I have worked with over the years. And it's amazing to me how challenging this situation is for both the legal situations and the employers. We are in a state of flux right now.
We're getting some great HR insights for small business owners from HR expert Tony Talbot. You're listening to Business Next, a part of the Michigan Business Network.